All right, what's up, y'all? I'm gonna leave it. Well, I like to do this. I would do this with the main company videos as well out in the field. I would adjust it after I started it just because, why not? This is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 9th of January, 2025, but just because it's past midnight, it's only a few hours past midnight. Only a few hours probably sounds a little bit late to some people, but yeah, so In the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 34. This episode is titled Being Real, and I'm going to get into it and we'll talk about it and we'll go from there. So this, I'm going to give a little bit of a rundown what In the Image Clothing Company is, and then we'll get right into the episode of the podcast. So In the Image Clothing Company is a company about the human body. It's not just about clothing, it's about allowing our bodies to work. We're called In the Image Clothing Company because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. So I talk about things within the body, patternings that we get into that apply to people across the globe, but I never have to meet them to know, because these things come from clothing. And clothing designs are similar all across the globe. And even if you're not even wearing a clothing design that's similar to anybody else, clothing that's oversized and doesn't fit right at the locations of your shoulders will put you into the same patternings. And everything that we do will put us into the same chronic patternings across the globe. And man, I'm sure calm in this episode. We'll see what happens, I guess. Like a random burst of energy part of the way through it. No, very, very good kind of calm. So we show where clothing needs to sit. We talk about what clothing's doing to the body, and I always say there's no reason the human body wouldn't work unless there's a reason it couldn't, and that could be anything, but it's always the things that it is if it's those things. If we're tying our shoes unevenly, if we're wearing clothing designs that are imbalanced when the body has a center line. So clothing on everybody, man or woman, any age, tall, short, skinny, fat. Pants need to be entirely above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear, because having them all the way up off the hips, then you have all the range of motion that your hips naturally have, that they're just given, and having it higher in the front than in the rear for the waistband allows our core to stay, as it would always naturally be, activated. And we don't ever want our core to deactivate, because that's the center of our whole body. And living in a modern 2025, there's a lot of people, this is how I was in the past, going around with their core deactivated. That's something that should just never happen, ever. And so it's crazy that happens. Now, the tops that we wear, the seams on the tops of our shoulders need to sit behind that little bone that's up there, because that's the other end of our collarbones. And that just allows our shoulders to be in their neutral position. And paired with that is to have those edge seams just right at the edges where the shoulders move. Now with button-ups, it is different. I understand that this is in front of my shoulder, but there's a band of material for button-ups rather than just a singular seam. So 2 prerequisites that we have as in the Image Clothing Company, in addition to just having clothing fit correct to allow the body to be unaltered, are to lace our shoes within the Image Clothing Company shoelacing technique. You can find wherever you find us online. We have the internet. You will be able to find us. And included with that technique is to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside on both feet to create an even foundation traveling up the entire body. And the second prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. Tags are causing unnatural gaps, changing the way that the body works, the musculature, and the skeletal system. I didn't mention at the beginning, but we talk about the skeletal system of the body. It's not about the fat content. It's not about the muscle mass. Those things at different points in our lives just come and go, and we have different amounts of them. But our bodies are just about the skeletal system. So with removing all the tags, that does include the tongues of the shoes, because if they're in the shoes anywhere. It's either altering the dorsiflexion or plantar flexion of the ankle or the natural gripped arches of our feet. Now, this is the podcast where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We also have another third of us, which is In the Image Clothing Company Music, and I make music there. We discuss setups of instruments and how to just allow your body to be positioned correct while you play instruments. And then we have the main company where we discuss the anatomy of the human body and clothing. Now, being real is this episode's title. Title. I don't know, because that really could be why I'm so content right now, is because of what this episode's title is. I'm not trying to act any certain way, but I think that's kind of a good thing to intro this discussion here with, because I think a lot of times, and I got personal experience to speak on this out of, people will think that being real means to be this, and they'll put something there. Like, you have to find out exactly who you are, and then you never deviate from like this personality. And the thing with being real is there's so many sides to just an authentic person. And so I think that's a big thing with what I was saying about how I understand how much more like calm and content I am in this episode than a lot of the other ones. I'm not like rowdy in other times, but I'm just like, I've got different amounts of energy behind what I'm saying, and different cadences I speak in a lot of the time, like speak faster or slower, and sometimes my voice is quite a bit higher, and sometimes like when I'm super just, you know, like grounded, like right now, my voice is pretty low. And so like I think a lot of times we have this misconception, and I know I did, that we had to find out like who we were and just be this like one thing. And a lot of misconceptions like that, man. A lot of things in the world though where people hear about like meditation or affirmations and that kind of like that side of things, and think that they need to like transcend this earthly life. But the whole point of this earthly life is to live it and be a human being. And we just have sides to us as human beings. We have emotions as human beings. I mean, it's just, and I think that's one thing that really indicates somebody, that, like you can tell pretty quick that someone's real, is that they're not always just like the same thing. So what happens is a lot of times we get the potential to get in this pattern of being very fake for the sake of pleasing people, and just having like a just like a one side to us, no matter who we're around, like our voices are the same tone, and like we have the same amount of like chipperness to us, or like whatever, because a lot of that comes from coping mechanisms, man. Either people will completely like zone out, and around just about everybody they'll be like just completely like gone, or like I'm saying, they'll have the other end with like excessive energy, but it's not real, but they're hoping to like make the situation for other people better. No matter what is going on that makes people not quite act authentic to themselves, I think that's the point to hit first. Is there's so many sides to a human being. You're not gonna just be one thing all the time, because we experience things. We get mad, dude. I mean, I get mad sometimes, We get scared. I mean, we're commanded more than anything else to not fear, but we're human beings, We're we're just gonna go through emotions. And so yeah, I mean, like no matter what's happening, you're still you, and you're the most you when you just let it happen, and that's how we should all be, man, without feeling bad if we're not. But I mean, man, being real. The thing is though, man, I mean, it's like what I was saying, I got so caught up in that, man, the whole like meditation and all this kind of stuff about trying to find like, it gets branded as inner peace, but what people don't realize they're taking it as is a lot of people start to think that they can get to this state as a human being to where they will never be shaken. Like, they will never be able to lose their cool because they've, like, meditated enough to where they now have perfect peace and they've transcended this human existence, like, similar to what I said earlier. No, that will not happen. No, 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 no. But what does happen... Shoot, this is gonna be an episode, man. No, shoot. I mean, I seeked for just being real for so long, man, and I didn't know what I was looking for. And I want to be very clear. I might get quite emotional depending on where this goes, but in a good way. You know, yeah, man. It's quite a good example right now, though, where, I think a lot of people think that once they get so perfectly real, I mean, how they'd word it, a lot of these, like, I'm picturing, people, then they'll never be able to mess up again, I mean, that, nah, dude, I don't even know how this episode's gonna go. Shoot, dude. I came into this so chilled out, man. I think that's the whole point is, like, with this episode, like, if I don't even say much of anything in here, like, I just felt right about sitting here. That's the other thing, like, that really is the point that I've been making even up until this point already is, it's not like there's like a definition of real. It's just what comes, just being authentic, whatever that means in the moment. And man, I want to be very clear. I got so prompted to make this episode right now. I don't know exactly how it's supposed to go, or what I'm even supposed to say, but I will say this. There's very few people in my life that are real. There's not that many people on this earth currently that are real. And again, I'm saying this out of just being prompted. I'm not saying this for any kind of like hopeful thing on my part for like something to come from something or like, and you'll see why I'm saying that, but there's very real people, but there's only a few of them. And yeah, well, so anyway, really what creates somebody that's real is trying their best to put themselves aside, but not for another human being, for God. And I think that's one thing that makes it so rare to have people be so authentic. Because we're not finding ourselves, we're finding Christ. And we don't decide who we are, we just allow ourselves to be who we were created as. I've got this institute teacher, man, currently, and she's one of the most real people. It's really weird what just one person can do. You know? It really is. I've got this cousin, and she's, as far as I know, she's still 13. And she's one of the most real people that I know. There's just a special few people that are, I mean, they're set apart for a much higher purpose than most everybody else. And no matter if that most everybody else is us or not, we just need to be content knowing that, because they have their place, you know? I mean, like, we have our own roles. Like I said, we're not here to decide who we are, but we're here given, you know, like, parts to play. Not everybody can be a leader, and not everybody should, but not everybody can be content, like, sitting on the sidelines, and not everybody should. Everybody has their own roles, and I think that's the big thing with, we don't get to decide. And that's why I said, you know, when it comes to being real, the only way to actually become that is by trying to put ourselves aside. And then we become who we are, not who we are thinking we can be. And that's just a worldly view nowadays, you know. Not everybody, that's not right at all, but so many people are trying to become whatever they want. And the whole thing with being authentic is there's only one you. A lot of sides to it, but it's just who and what it is. And yeah, you know, I've talked about, I like Disney a lot. I know it's a little bit of a unpopular opinion nowadays, depending on what side you claim to stand, you know, and I wouldn't put myself on any sides of anything besides God. And he is in everything. And the movie Moana is huge to me ever since it came out years ago. And the second one just came out, and I actually went and I sat alone in the movie theater on Christmas Day and watched Moana 2. My mom bought me a ticket for Christmas, and I went and watched it, man. And that was the most, like, just so much gratitude in having that be something I can do. But that's one of those examples, you know, I think a lot of people wouldn't be so content going to do something like that alone. And I've heard people say stuff like that, you know, where they think like, I'm going to get to the point where I can go do things on my own and be happy about it and content with it and not feel weird about it or left out or something. And, you know, maybe you're not supposed to do that and be comfortable with it as who you are. But for me, that's just how I've lived my entire life. I mean, no matter who wants to go with me to things or offers to or invites me to go with them, my whole life I've been more content alone in most cases. So that's what I mean, where, you know, we're we're just who we are. And the reason I started mentioning Moana is because there's that song that her grandma sings to her. And that's kind of the whole movie, is she's finding out who she is. She's not trying to make herself be anything. She's learning who she is. And that's, I think, that movie has such a special place in my heart. I'm so grateful for whoever made Moana, everyone, dude, who made that movie. Like, yeah. I've watched the first one many times. Alone. I mean, that's the thing, you know? I mean, it's not like it's just some kind of like, you know, there's not some kind of reason to it. It's just, I love it. It means so much to me. And yeah. I mean, I might continue to watch it quite a few times, like. Yeah, man, finding yourself is a whole different thing. The way you find yourself is by finding Christ. Because he's the one that knows you perfectly. And that's what I was mentioning with some people in my life that are just so real. That's why they're so real. Because they're disciples of Jesus Christ. And it's not something you can fake. And it's not something that a lot of people understand either. There's a verse that says that, I don't know exactly how it's worded, but it calls disciples of Jesus Christ a strange and peculiar people. It's those people that are most misunderstood. Yeah, dude, I just some people you are so content to be around, but then you'd be entirely fine with not seeing them for ever. It's a really weird thing. People leave some imprints in you, though, man. I mean, really good ones. That institute teacher of mine, dude. It's weird because there's certain people that can be in like a teaching position, and like I'm saying, some people just couldn't. And it's not because they are lacking anything that they need to gain, but we really do just have roles that we are supposed to play. And I think that's the most beautiful thing is when you settle into what you're really supposed to be doing and it just works. That's a huge thing for me. I've had so many different ways of trying to make money throughout my life, and I mean, you just can't fight who you are. Like I'm saying, I'm kind of that lone wolf, but not lonely. That's one of those things that people just don't understand. I'm so content being alone. I think that's a really beautiful thing, though, is, gosh, dude, yeah, this episode is a huge thing. When people don't quite feel right about their lives or about who they are, it's probably because you're trying to be something. Or you're trying to be yourself. Oh, gosh. I mean, the people that are content is people who are Christians. And let me be very clear, everybody has the opportunity to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. Nobody is excluded. And that's where everything starts, and that's where the reality actually is, I mean, I remember trying to figure out who I was and like search for authenticity, and the way you do that is by not thinking about yourself. I mean, in all this modern day like self-help stuff, we start to think about ourselves so much that we try to be something. We already are something, and that's all we are. And that thing is a son or a daughter of our living God. And he decides who we are, not us. Yeah. It's so beautiful, man. I mean, I remember just like wondering how people did it, a lot of the time, like how they were so real, how they were so authentic, how they had like confidence and, didn't really care how they came across to other people. I was always like thinking they had some kind of secret and they just know that they can't do it alone. That really is the thing. And that's why it's such a backward thing when you're looking at these self-help type ways of approaching stuff is you can't help yourself. I don't want to feel obligated to speak, but if you're just listening to this episode of the podcast in audio only, you might have wondered if it like cut off or something. I don't know, man. I like I said, it's gonna be an episode, dude. I mean, you just can't fake it, but you can't make it happen either. It's funny too. I mean, I look back to people. Yeah, man, I just thought they were doing it on their own. I thought they had some kind of like, we call it self-confidence a lot of the time, and it's not. You don't need confidence in yourself. Your confidence comes from knowing. Oh, gosh. It's something you can't explain, dude. It's like an untouchable knowing. I, I, there's this girl that Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen. There's this girl that works with him. Her name's Jelaine. Shoot, dude. I was just picturing her the way that I just was starting to react to what I was saying is like she gets convicted when something happens or when she says something, she realizes like how powerful God really is, and she just like she just her reactions like that. It's just like you can't fake it, dude. You cannot fake conviction, man. And that's the thing is, a lot of times it's oh my gosh, there's something in my eye now, dude. I cut my hair and then I haven't showered since. I got little hairs all over my head, and then I just touched my eyebrow and eye and stuff. So, that's kind of an example right there. They're like, I don't care, dude. Just, it's not something because it's not about me. That's the whole point. Is like that's where like the confidence within this company comes from as well. Like when the stuff I talk about, I'm so bold about. Like, dude, I don't even know if I know what I'm talking about, but I know it's true. You know what I mean? Like, it's just yeah. I mean, it's just the gospel, dude. I mean, that's it. It's so cool though, man, because That's what I'm saying though about people playing their roles. I mean, you're just playing a part in the grand scheme of all this, and it's beautiful because you can't try to be somebody else at all. Yeah, you can't, dude. You cannot. So, but um, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you start to not care about other people because you don't need to. Because all we need to do is know Christ. That's it. It's not like there's some rule book, and once you are following all those rules so perfect, then you might like have a little bit of confidence within you. It's no, you know who he is, and there you go, because he is who he is, and he knows you're imperfect, and he's perfect. And what that really does is help you realize that the only reason you were ever nervous in the past is because you wanted to be accepted. But not by anybody around you, because it never helped if you felt that way anyway. But by the only opinion that actually matters. And he doesn't need anything from us to accept us. He just wants us. That's different than any human being we'll ever have around us or in our lives at all. And yeah, I think a lot of times we look at people that are pretty confident and yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't even need to. This is what I mean. This is where it comes to. Is like there's nothing else to even talk about because I don't think we call it confidence. What we're perceiving as that's not what it is. It's like a contentment, just knowing who is actually important. Because a lot of times, what we're trying to do when we think we need to gain confidence is be good at these things of the world. And when we know Christ, we know that it doesn't matter if we're good at anything or not. That's what sets us apart as Christians. Because he's not looking for us to get high scores on tests or say all the right things or have money or our lives together in any way that could be seen. He's not looking for anything from us besides us. And he's already looking to us. And so that's all he's asking on our end. And he wants us to admit our flaws and mistakes and make it pretty darn apparent that we can't do it on our own, because that's actually what glorifies Him. So, it's not confidence. Well, that's the thing, is the people that we admire the most are the people that are okay with messing up. We just label it as something it's not. I mean, once you know you're loved, no matter what you do, oh my gosh. There's a photo of Christ over here. That's why I'm looking this way when I'm doing that throughout this. Because He doesn't want us to be what the world wants us to be. And a lot of times the world wants you to be perfect. But anything that you would label as real probably has quite a bit of imperfections within it. There's a reason to that. A lot of times we can tell artificial things from natural ones because some things seem a little bit too perfect. Yeah, we're flawed. You can't be anything else. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. There's some people, man, that I admire. Done some beautiful things and made it public so that I could see. Shia LaBeouf is one of those people. There's some people out there, dude, that's the reason I think so highly of them, is because they make it known that they mess up. Oh my gosh, man, I really love Jesus Christ. There's a subtlety to it. And it's a subtlety that I've been missing because of what I did. You know, taking my records out of the church. I love how this is almost like interrogation style when I'm sitting this close right in front of the camera like this. I love that. I think that's really, oh my gosh. That's what gets us there, man. Treating life like an interrogation. Everything you ever do, what if you were in front of an interrogator and they had to get the answers and the truth out of you, or else they just sit there and keep drilling you with questions until they did? Because that's what's going to get you real. The point is, our God sees everything and he already knows. And we get so used to hiding, and we can't. That's what makes it easier on everything. On everyone, to everyone. This is that moment. Like, I feel like running, dude. You know, like I hear people say that kind of thing, dude. And I know. Because that's the thing, bro. I mean, yeah. You know, I mean, sitting there, you know, in a crowd of people or whatever, and you think about how nervous you are, but look at everybody else. You think they're not? Just starting to be okay with being nervous, you know? Do the opposite end of that whole transcending this human life thing and fully accept you're flawed and sinful and broken and you need some help. And look to the one that'll always give it. That's where your real comes from. Yeah. That's where it is. It's been there the whole time. But we got to get over ourselves, you know? Realize we're not going to be better than we are. It's like that paradox of improvement. When I'm writing songs, a lot of time I say stuff like that, and freestyles and stuff as well. You know, always kind of like mock improvement. But I have this entire company about, you know, a lot of improvement. We're not going to be better than we are, though. We're just human beings. We're just what we are. And we're always under God. No matter what. Because you're not going to feel any better by trying to be anything besides what you are. And when we're sinful by nature, and when we have things that we need, as far as like actual human needs, you're not going to transcend that without becoming something besides a human being. So, you know, accepting that we need things and knowing who can give them all to us is really all that you need, and there you go. You're real. You know, I mean, really. I mean, he'll give us all the things that we need. We lack no things with the shepherd. I don't know exactly how that scripture's worded, but I mean, he's our provider in every way. Every, like, emotional need, every physical need, everything. I mean, any way you could possibly come at it to try to describe. That's what's weird about it to people that don't know Christ. And I think that's something that people see within Christians, whether they even know anything about Christianity, is that they're pretty content people. Because while everybody around them that's looking at the earth that we're on through a worldly lens, those of us who know the truth have a level of contentment that can't leave, even if we do get a little bit flustered. And that's strange. Because it doesn't end. I think that's one thing. A lot of people think that they have to do a certain type of thing in order for anything to matter here. But then that thing is determined by either their own belief or somebody's around them. But there's only one reason we're actually here. And he has a name. And he put us here. So I think it's kind of weird because that's why, we call it the paradoxical gospel. Because what may look like confidence is actually not in yourself. It's knowing that you have somebody who loves you actually unconditionally, regardless of what you do. It's weird. Because it's like kind of obvious to explain. Like if you know what I'm saying, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. But it's not just something you understand because you heard the words that were spoken. It's like an entire change in what you are. Because that's the thing. It's like I was saying, you can't decide who you are, but a lot of times we try to create something out of what we are. And I mean, really, to whatever degree it is, we all do that. Meaning, at least to some degree. We try to be something, and it doesn't work. I mean, I spent my whole life until I was about 23, give or take, trying to be something. I think it's weird because it's you almost become like not even there anymore in a good way once you start just depending on Christ. Like, man, I used to be so obsessed over myself. And I'd look in the mirror every time there was a mirror around me. I would try to have my hair looking all whatever. I mean, there's been times in my life when I had hair like 2 feet long, and anywhere in between. I'd be shaving my beard and like trying to make it all perfect. And, I mean, trying to be seen, and I don't know. I mean, in every way. But nowadays, like, I mean, I don't need to try to like convince anybody anything. I'm sitting here right now. I haven't shaved in like a week, and I don't know. Like, it's not a thought anymore, because there's such a difference between what our God, whose opinion is the only one that matters, wants from us, and what we can get the idea that other people might. Because it's like what I said earlier, where even these people we're trying to please by being whatever we think that they might want us to be, if they compliment us in whatever way we were trying to have them do, or have whatever view about us or on us that we were going for, we're not fulfilled even if what we thought we wanted happens. So that's why it really is on the end of just entirely like, I'm not going to be any better than I am. So I might as well be that. You know, I mean, that's what we talk about within the company. There's so much stuff nowadays that people, I don't know, I want to stay really, really rooted with what I'm saying here. Not that that would be like a wrong thing to say at all, but I just, like, I guess what I'll say, at least a little bit of what I was meaning is, it's like the human body only functions how it does. And that's all I'm going to say on that within this, but we can't be more than what we already are, what we were designed as, who we were created to be. You know, I mean, Moana, dude, that's such a big movie to me. Holy cow, man. If people can get what I got out of it, it's a big movie to anybody. I think that's why it was such a big in the sense of like how many people have seen it kind of movie. Because, I mean, that's the whole thing, you know, is she just kept saying like, you know, she's been trying to do this thing her whole life and she doesn't know why, you know, I mean, but she just, that's how the song goes. She's like, I don't know if I'm gonna sing it or just say the lyrics, but she's like saying how she's been staring at the edge of the water as long as she can remember and she never knew why. And she's trying to be the perfect daughter, but she always comes back to the water no matter how hard she tries. I mean, that movie's so amazing. I mean, I want to give like just immense, like, I don't even know what word to use, but whoever made that movie, dude, in all aspects, the music, the writing, just every side of it that I could mention, the level of appreciation I have for that movie is just immense. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you know, it's like she's trying to be the perfect daughter. And the things she's doing that she thinks will make her be that quote unquote perfect daughter don't work. But what ends up happening is, you know, she just stays authentic to who she has been the whole time. And then there she goes. She like, you know, saves the village. I mean, like, that's such a real movie. That's all we're asked to do is just be who we are. It's because, like, what I said is all that we are, and that's all we need to be, is a son or a daughter of our living God. Yeah, dude, I mean, you're never gonna get anywhere. And neither am I, by the way. I'm not trying to put myself above, if that sounded like I was, like, talking down. Guess what? I'm talking straight across, dude, because we got an equal playing field as human beings. It is really strange, though, man. I mean, you can't find it. That's the whole thing is, it's really funny. I mean, it's the thing that's always there, and you can't find by trying to think it's like something. Like, it's unattainable, but entirely within you. It's such a strange thing. I mean, we're just who we are. I mean, you see it in people, man. Like, yeah, just, I'm going to shout out this woman, Taya. She's a Christian singer, songwriter, musician. She's wonderful. And she, yeah, she's, dude, I don't know. That's what I mean. I don't, that's, yeah. There's no such thing as confidence in yourself. Because if you think that you're going to get to a point where you're confident in yourself, it's not going to happen. Because you're not supposed to be. It's so weird. I mean, because I see it and I'm aware. I go around and I stand out from most everybody that I'm ever with. You know, besides a few. And it's not something that I have done. Because, yeah, I mean, like, I'm so comfortable in crowds with people in the sense of not caring. Because really the biggest thing is, like, a lot of people feel like they need things from others. But what we are really here to do is give. This is why it's so crazy, because that's really how it is. It's like, that's how I know. I mean, you're in a crowd with people, like, gosh, dude, I mean, it's just how real it is. Like, it's not about worrying about if people can help me or anything, but it's knowing that I'm helped no matter what, and knowing that I can help them, but not because of me, but because I can be used as a vessel, a carrier pigeon, a hollow bone, a messenger, an apostle, all these words that mean just somebody who's kind of like, a middleman, giving out some good news. The word gospel, literally translated. That's what it means. And so that's the thing, like I was saying, you're sitting there in a crowd and you look around and see everyone's nervous. Well, I mean, I was sitting in Institute tonight, right? As I was saying, I have this amazing Institute teacher. And dude, she's just wonderful. I mean, she's just so convicted. You know it. It's something you can't deny no matter what. I mean, like I was saying, people that are just set apart, even if you don't really know what Christianity is, you can look at a Christian and be like, ooh, yeah, I don't even know how to understand you. Good, that's fine. I was in Institute and sitting there and I was starting to get a little bit nervous. And then I was like, wait, so is everyone else. And that's what gave me the confidence. What we would call confidence. Because, I mean, I don't even know how to put that into words as of right now, because I think the point is people think they shouldn't be nervous. But we're just going to be. It's like, I mean, I go into stuff not knowing what I'm doing. I mean, I'll start some of these videos for In The Image Clothing Company not having a clue what's going on. But then I'll like thoroughly explain stuff and it's like correct. Because I'm not relying on my own knowledge. even within this podcast episode, like, I don't know. I got, like I said, I just am only making this because I got prompted to. I was in the kitchen of this house, pacing around and eating some food, and poured some milk, and I use this chocolate powder to make chocolate milk. That's what the powder's actually for. It's not just like some random chocolate, but I poured that and I love it. And I'm like, I am going to listen because you're telling me to go make an episode right now. And a lot of it was brought on by my institute teacher tonight. Not her telling me to make this episode of the podcast. I don't think she knows I have a podcast, but the way that I was feeling about her and have felt about how real this woman is. And I was realizing as well how I never used to stand out in crowds like I do now. And back then when I didn't stand out, I was trying to be seen. And now I'm not. And people see me. And I don't care. And it's weird. It's the truth. The only place you're ever going to be content is dwelling within the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that contentment isn't just kind of like you feel okay with some things. It's like you're entirely fine with anything, no matter what. And that doesn't mean that you're always like so comfortable, but it's like, you know. Because no matter what, he's above everything. I mean, the bands of death couldn't hold him. And he promised us that they're not going to hold us either. And, stuff like that, you can't understand. I can't, as a human being, like fully. We're not going to be able to. But being able to have the faith that he's there, and not just some kind of like blind hope for something, because I don't want to be offensive, and I don't, because even like people who are devoted Christians and things, but me personally, I don't like to use the words hope or faith. Oh, hold on. Definitely use the word faith. It was on the back of my car. My car used to say, "Let your faith be bigger than your fear" on the rear window in big white letters. I'm talking like the letters were like 4 or 5 inches tall each. 4 inches probably, just about. No, but the words hope and believe are 2 words that I personally, I don't want to tell people that, use whatever you feel is right, pray about it. But faith is a whole different thing to me, personally. I don't want that to be some opinion, but that's the whole thing is, I know that I won't be able to understand him fully, but I know that as long as I'm trying to accept that, then he'll help me understand more. It's this whole weird thing that doesn't make any sense, but And yeah, so it is weird because I understand that I get seen as this pretty confident person and somebody who doesn't care what people think, and I don't at all. But not because of me, not because I've transcended people's opinions and I'm so good. No. It's because I know that I'm, hear this correct, because I could have the highest self-worth out of any human that could ever be and say this phrase, but I know that I'm basically trash on the side of the street and still loved by a perfect God. And so why am I going to fear some other person's opinion of me? And it's a weird thing because it's that simple. And it's been openly available to every one of us the whole time we've been here. But we have our times for things and our roles to play. We're not different. We look at our problems and think they're so unique, and they're not. And it's weird because, everybody needs help just as much as you, even those people who've got it together. But that's why it is what it is. That's what I'm saying. That's why I have like this, like, you know, like I stand out or whatever, because I know that I need help. It really is backward in the most, like, that's how it's supposed to be kind of way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Think about it like this, and please don't get offended by this on your end. I mean, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Please don't get offended for your sake. Whoever you are, I don't have any clue who you are that I'd be addressing necessarily, because any human on the earth could hear this. Literally any human that could ever possibly have access to the internet could hear this, because it's 2025 currently. But it really is the people who are trying to look so good that don't feel good about themselves. And it's the people that feel so content with themselves that don't care what they look like. It's the gospel of paradoxes. It's the truth of all things. It's your answer. You looking for an answer for anything? It's not a place or a thing, but it's a man who's much more than that, because he created you and everything you know or could ever have the potential to. And his name is Jesus Christ. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up because I love this. Needless to say, I don't even know what to say within it, because it's like, I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of this person that some people have heard of, but really he's just our almighty God. And don't believe me, but I mean, I spent years of my life trying to find things to fix my problems and my anxieties and my traumas and my beliefs about myself and my patterns, emotional and relational and physical body. And I mean, self-help communities, any kind of thing that could possibly be any kind of thing. Books, other human beings' podcasts on their words, anything. And it never did anything that was real unless it was our God working through it in the ways that he was. And it never would have gotten me anywhere that I was trying to get. But all we're trying to do is get back home. We want to feel comfortable, like we're in our own bed, getting a good night's sleep, like we're being held by someone that we know loves us and couldn't change. And we are, always, actually. I mean, he's always here. It's not, hope the line's not busy and keep calling. It's like, you don't have to even pick up the phone because he's got like a, one of those permanent like earpieces in, and you're on the other end. I mean, I don't want to make it silly, but I want to make it as relatable as it is. It's nowhere to go. It's nothing to be. It's here and now. And there you are. But you already were. You just didn't quite see it because we're all on our own journeys. And that's okay. And it's crazy. And it's really, really crazy because I don't know. I mean, it's subtle, man. I mean, in this time being away from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I went to some other churches. I listened to other Christians, and I'm not trying to talk down on anybody who's really just trying to be a devoted disciple of Jesus Christ, but what I am doing is, on the other end, just saying that no matter what, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the true church. And don't believe me, but like I'm saying, with that subtlety, with that thing that, you don't have to find it, you don't have to go anywhere, and it doesn't have to, I mean, anything you could put on it, it's not any different than what's just always there. But that's within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it is such a weird thing, because that's why it's such a slippery thing, it's like a fox, or it's funny because, yeah, I mean, it got spoken to through foxes quite a few times in the past while. I mean, even in the past few years. And, there's a lot of things. I mean, that's it says that within Scripture, the adversary, he comes to steal, to kill, steal, and destroy. I don't know if it's in any certain order, if those orders matter, or, either one of those, but that's what it says. And he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And he's cunning, the cunning devices of the adversary. And it's like a fox, something that's, I don't really know why foxes are used like that, but in that, like, analogy. But, oh, well, yeah, like, you hear the term sly fox, it's a sly thing. It's a very, you don't realize it, and then there it is, or there it's not, or, it's something very, 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 very holy and good, tweaked like the slightest bit, and just entirely evil. And yeah, so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that subtlety that I'm talking about. And the foxiness of it, the slyness, the cunningness of the adversary that slips in when and where and how he does, trying to do all that he can to just deceive us from our knowings and our conviction. Because the gospel never leaves, and because our God is in everything, I mean, he created the good and the bad, and he is all. It's such a subtle thing, to where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it being the true church, don't believe me, it's the most subtle thing that I have ever experienced, because it's the most subtle thing that there is. And it's a really easy thing to, I don't know, almost like want more of, like almost think like you're not doing enough because nothing seems to be happening, but at the same time, like, wow, I'm sure content, That's really what it is. It's like this entirely like blissed out, but in like a, a way that's, I don't know how to explain that, because I want that to be heard. I want to continue to say that. It's like you're in like this totally blissful, well, and that's what's weird as well, is because that's the thing with Adam and Eve, they were in a blissful state in the garden, but they couldn't continue that way, because that was the whole plan, is for them to sin. And so that's why it's weird, because that's the feeling, because that's the truth of all things. That was the perfect state of the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve partook of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's why it is the subtlety, because it's in between the two. And I talk all the time about living within the space in between. That's what I'm talking about. And that is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And don't believe me, it's the most subtle thing. And that's when I was talking about my institute teacher, I mean, she is the reason that this episode was prompted. If she ever hears this or knows about the podcast or anything, that's not my intent behind this. But she definitely has a conviction, not just of our God, but of his true church. And I don't know how to explain this in a way, but this is the most real that I can get. And that's what this episode's titled, is being real. I mean, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, there's a place where there's just nothing else. You don't have an opinion to talk about. You don't have a thing to talk about. You don't have anything to do, but yet you're doing like just the most important thing that there is. And that's really what spreading the gospel is. I don't know how to further make this any more than it is of what it is, because yeah, it's such an easy thing to get deceived from, because it's something that doesn't seem like it's even there in a way that you could never get too much of, and you have more than enough. That's the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's the truth of all things, and that's the fullness of the gospel in this restored church, regardless of who wants to believe it, because I didn't for the past 11 months, at least, within the majority of that time, and I voluntarily took my records out of the church. But that's what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is. It's the most content, confusing, perfect. And it's just pure love, because it's our God himself. So, yeah, you want to know where people's confidence comes from? I wouldn't call it confidence, because I don't need to feel confident to know that I'm loved by my God.